Tucked away in Sudbury, Massachusetts, sits Longfellow's Wayside Inn. Opening its doors in the early 18th century, it stands today as one of the oldest continually operating inns in the United States. The property carries a towering literary pedigree. It was right here that this man, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, drafted his iconic poem, Paul Revere's Ride. Walking through the common areas, that history is baked into the architecture. The rustic brick fireplace and heavy wooden beams keep the inn firmly anchored in its colonial past. Yet, for all its connection to the American Revolution and classic poetry, the most sought-after experience here has nothing to do with Paul Revere or midnight rides. The most highly requested reservation at the entire inn is simply a door down the hall marked Room 9. Why do modern travelers bypass verified founding-era history just to sleep in a specific, technology-free bedroom, and what exactly are they leaving behind when they check out? Stepping inside Room 9 feels like walking into an antique portrait. The space is anchored by a traditional canopy bed and a tall wooden dresser, perfectly preserving a stark colonial aesthetic. But the antique furniture isn't the main attraction. The room's real claim to fame is its resident spirit, Jerusha Howe. Jerusha's folklore is unusually specific. According to the legend, she has a habit of snuggling up to single male guests who spend the night alone in the room. The management takes great pains to curate this space and keep it rooted tightly in the 18th century. That means creating an absolute void of modern entertainment. There isn't even a television inside. Without a screen to distract them, guests are forced to sit with the silence. Instead, they have to face the creaking floorboards, the heavy shadows, and the weight of the room's history head-on. By stripping away those contemporary comforts, the room creates a unique psychological environment. It makes visitors highly receptive to the supernatural lore, shifting them from passive vacationers into active participants in the ghost story. This intense environment leads to some very unusual behavior from the living people who check in. Look closely at the wooden boards above the bed, and you'll find the room's best-kept secret. There are thousands of tiny scraps of paper tucked straight into the ceiling cracks by the people who stay there. These are handwritten notes left by previous guests, documenting their long overnights and detailing personal encounters with Jerusha. And there's a second interactive element hidden somewhere in the space, a small treasure box stashed away by past visitors. Finding that box requires guests to actively search the antique furniture and the dark corners. It turns a typical hotel stay into a physical, tactile investigation. It's a clever combination of forced boredom and physical discovery. Together, they turn an overnight booking into a collaborative, crowdsourced mythology project spanning decades. This space functions as a living, collaborative archive of human imagination. The Wayside Inn preserves two very different types of history side by side. On one hand, you have the formal, published poetry of Longfellow, penned with traditional tools like this vintage inkstand and quill. On the other, you have the messy, handwritten folklore stuffed into the ceiling by everyday people. Longfellow may have put the property on the map, but it is the guests checking into Room 9 who actively keep its mythology breathing through their physical participation. The survival of Jerusha's legend relies entirely on the living, people willing to sit in the quiet, write their own stories down, and hide them away for the next traveler to find. A ghost story doesn't actually require a real ghost to survive. It only needs a community of the living